Alright guys, now let's see how we actually do the alignments inside the grid system. How we can actually left align the elements or align to the right side of the container. Let's see what are the different properties and values inside our grid systems. Inside the grid, we have the same properties and values as we have already seen inside our flex box. So we have 6 different properties for the alignment: justify item, justify content, align content. So the first 4 property belongs to the parent element, that is grid container. Then we have last 2 properties, that is justify self and align self, which belongs to the children element, that is the grid item. Now let's understand all of these properties one by one. So let's begin with the properties which are belong to the parent for the alignment. So here we have actually, let's have a look. This is our page now. Let's get rid of all of these things. Okay, let's keep our container, save this, give it a refresh. Nothing we have. Perfect. And we'll also get rid of this CSS we don't need now. Get rid of the column and areas. Yeah, great. Have a look. Nice. Yeah, and inside the container, let's have few items. Maybe item and item dollar, and here we'll have, and how many items do we need? Maybe let's say 20. Hit enter. So this is how we have item 1 2 3 4 5 6. Perfect. So actually let's see what I have done here. Actually this is the emit. You can use shortcut to get the items or get the div with the class name. Actually this is a built-in plugin inside the VS Code, but if you want to install in your other code editor, maybe you might be using Sublime Text or Atom, you can install emit. But here I don't have to install it because I'm using VS Code. So yeah, okay, so we have got 20 items on our page. Let's have a look. Perfect. 1 2 3 4 5. We have 20 items. Now go to our CSS. Let's define columns. GTC grid template columns. Repeat. Let's say we need 5 columns of 1 FR. Save this. Give it a refresh. Great. We have 5 columns. Yep, 3 4 5. Now we will make use of justify item property. So let's see how justify item works. The justify item property accepts different values, and the first value inside the justify item is start. That's the default value. Save this. Let's have a look. No, actually the justify start is not the default value. I'm sorry. The default value is actually stretch. Save this. Give it a refresh. You can see that's the stretch. Actually, let's inspect our page. Layout. Okay, here we have, let's show the line numbers. Yeah, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so here we are using justify items. How justify item works? The justify items works inside the individual cells, and it works in the X direction. Unlike flexbox, inside the flexbox we were having 2 direction, that is row and column, so we can change the direction there. But here inside the grid system there is no any property called flex direction or grid direction. Here we have just 2 direction, that is X and Y. So we don't need to apply any direction properties. This is the X axis and Y axis. So the justify items works on the X axis, and it works inside the individual cells. As you can see, I am using justify item start, so it will start from the starting point. You can see, let's see here, you can see the items, these items are working inside the cells, which is getting aligned to the starting of the cell. Now if I say here justify item and give it a refresh, now it is aligned towards the end inside the individual columns or individual cell, you can say. Then similarly you have value of center, give it a refresh, get those lines align in the center. Perfect. All right, so these are the different values for the justify items. Next property we have that is align items. So keep in mind the justify inside the grid system will always work on the x direction, that is this one, and the align will always work on the no cross. Here we don't have cross axis or main axis. Here we have x axis and y axis, which cannot be changed. So the justify property works on the x direction or the x axis, and the align items works on the y axis. So now let's have a look align items. So align items also has different values, and those are start and center stretch. So first let's see how it works. Let's say start, save this, then give it a refresh, obviously get back to this one, stretch by default. Yep. So actually here we do not see any kind of changes for the align items. It's just because the individual cells, or the you can say for the rows, we do not have any height. We did not define any kind of row, any height to the rows. So let's define the row actually, then we will see the changes when we use the align items. So for that purpose, let's define grid template, actually just a grid auto rows. So whatever the auto row we will be having, each and every row will be having the height of say 200 pixel. Save this, give it a refresh. Perfect. So we have 5 rows, each and every row is having a height of 200 pixel. Now let's get rid of this align item, start, save this, give it a refresh. Okay, that is stretch. So by default align item property has the value of stretch. Save this, then give it a refresh. You can see these are the stretch by default. The align item is working on the y-axis and the justify item was working on the x-axis. Okay, all right, now let's experiment all of these values for the align items. The first we will see start, save this, then give it a refresh. Starting point, let's get those lines. Yeah, starting, then end, give it a refresh, get those line towards the end point. Then we have center also, save this, then give it a refresh. Cool. So these are the justify items and align items. Next we have justify content and align content. Justify content and align content. So what's the difference between justify items, align items, and this justify content and align content? Actually, you might have seen here the justify items and align items was working inside the cell. Yeah, this cell, it was working individually. Now let's see other two properties, that is justify content and align content. The justify content and align content will work on the whole grid, actually whole grid system, not for the individual cell, but it will be working for the whole grid. So for that purpose, now let's get rid of this thing, and again we'll comment out the auto rows, give it a refresh. Okay, here we have back to normal. Now okay, instead of saying 1 FR, let's say just 200 pixel, that would be fine. Yeah, 200 pixel, and this time let's say just 3 column. Okay, cool. So now let's see the justify content property. First, justify content. Yeah, so the justify content properties also accept the different values, and those are very similar to the flexbox. Start, end, center, stretch, space around, space between, and space evenly. So let's see those values one by one. First of all we will see justify content start. Save this, then give it a refresh. By default it is start. Perfect. And one more thing again, justify, as it is a justify, it will work on the x-axis. The whole grid will be aligning on the x-axis now. Now let's say and give it a refresh. Towards the end, whole grid is shifting actually towards the end side. Now if I say center, give it a refresh, center on the x-axis. Now if I say stretch, let's see how stretch works. Give it a refresh. That's the stretch, no changes, because we have fixed the width of individual column, that is 200 pixels. No problem. Yeah, but yeah, if we say here 1fr, so it will stretch to fill up the extra space inside the grid system. Yeah, cool. But let's get rid of this justify content stretch. Give it a refresh. Then also it is working as we have applied 1fr. So I don't know what is the use of this justify content stretch, but yeah, that's what we have. Maybe there will be any use. Okay, let's move into the next value, that is space between, space around. So first let's have a look of space around. Space around, save this and give it a refresh. Okay, get some width, actual width. Now let's have a look. Okay, space around. I hope you got the idea from the flexbox only how justify content space around works. So there will be a space around the items. Same goes for here also. And then if we say space between, give it a refresh, space between, nice. And if we say at the end we have space evenly. Now space evenly. Perfect. So these are the justify content values. Now let's have a look of align content. Okay, again the align content property will work on the y-axis. So whatever the values we have seen for the justify content property, we have the same values for the align content also, but it will work on the y-axis. So let's see all of those. Yeah, so first we have start. Yeah, save this. Now let's have a look. Okay, we have applied align content start, but we do not see any changes. It's just because again align content is working on the y-axis, and on the y-axis we do not have any height for our container. So let's apply some height to our container, maybe 80 vh. Save this, give it a refresh. Yeah, here we have. So first we have align content start, next we have end. Save this, then give it a refresh, align content towards the endpoint, and actually let's increase some of the height, maybe 90 vh. Yeah, that is nice. Start we have seen, then end, then we have center, give it a refresh, center whole content, as well as then we have stretch, give it a refresh, stretching to fill up the extra space, and thereafter again we have space around, give it a refresh, space around. Okay, and then space between, space between. Okay, and at the end we have space evenly. Yeah, all right. So yeah, you already have the idea of justify content, align content, align items. You might not be having any idea of justify items because they inside our flexbox we were not having this property. I hope you got each and everything here that we have discussed. All right, so one more thing here, I'll show you some shorthand properties actually. For the justify item and align items, there is one property. Save this here, give it a refresh, justify center and align item center. That's what we have applied. So for the justify items and align items property, we have a shorthand property that is known as place items. and you can define individually. Maybe you can say center one value will be for both, for the justify item as well as align item. But if you want to say individually also, you can say for the justify item we'll be keeping stretch, and we'll say for the align items we will say center. Yep, it refresh. Perfect. So let's have a look. Let's inspect it actually. For our styles to the container, here we have place items. So let's see the shorthand. Yeah, first value is for the align item, that is a stretch, and the second value is for the justify item, that is center. So let's do the stretch for the justify items, then for the align item let's say center. Yeah, now it is nice. Perfect. And then same goes to justify content and align content. So the justify, save this, then give it a refresh. Okay, we'll get rid of this just place item now. Give it a refresh. Okay, perfect. Now for the justify content and align content, we have a property of place content. That's the shorthand property. For the align content, let's say we have center. Let's keep it center for both the values. Give it a refresh. Perfect. Each and everything is in center. Yeah, and if you look at here, we have align content center and justify content center. The align content on the cross, not cross, sorry, on the y-axis, and justify content on the x-axis. So that's why we're seeing all of these items exactly in the center of the grid. Okay, so let's see something else. Maybe for the place content, for the align content, let's say space between, and similarly goes for the space between. Keep it a space between for both the items, not for both the items but for both these properties, place content, which is saying align content, as well as justify content. Yeah, all right guys, so these are the properties for the parent for aligning the items or aligning the individual elements. Just justify items, align items, justify content, and align content. Thereafter we have properties for the children, that is justify self and align self. So this, you might have got the idea how justify self will work and align self will work. The justify self we can apply on the individual property. Let's get rid of all of these things. Save this, give it a refresh. Okay, now first of all we are going to work on the justify self. The justify self will be applied on the individual item. So that's the property for the children. So that's why let's target any item. Maybe item, do we have classes? Yeah, we have item 1 2 3. So for the item 1, let's say justify self center. Save this, give it a refresh. It is in the center, it is not a stretch. Again get back to 1fr, that would be great. Yeah, it is in the center. And you can also apply any values, maybe start. So it is working only for the individual items. Maybe we can also say for the item maybe 9, say justify self and. Save this, then give it a refresh and. Okay, then anything, item maybe 10, justify self center. That's the justify self which is working individually for the individual item. Actually we can apply this property for the on the individual items. And similarly we have align items, sorry, align self also. The align self will be working on y-axis. So for that purpose we will be needing some height of the rows. So let's apply the grid template rows, maybe not grid template rows, just apply the grid auto rows. So So the auto rows will be having some height, maybe 200 pixel. Quit refresh. Any mistake we are making? Grid auto rows. Yeah, 200 pixel. Yeah, this is, let's get rid of this. Give it a refresh. Yeah, now it is working, and we have fixed the height of the container. So let's get rid of this. So that's why our items are flowing. Okay, 200 pixel here we have applied. Auto rows, just say 100. Okay, great. So now we are going to work for the align self. The align self property also accept the same values. Maybe say start. Okay, earlier it was stretching by default. Similarly here, let's say align self center. Give it a refresh. This item, ninth item. Yeah, and then for the 10th, let's say align self and save this, then give it a refresh. Yeah, towards the end point. So these are the properties for the grid items: justify self, align self. Or you can also say here that instead of saying justify self, align self, we have a property that is place self. Yep, that's the shorthand property for justify self and align self. You can say start. Save this, then give it a refresh. Great. Then here we have, let's say end. Give it a refresh. And yeah. Alright, great guys. So we have learned how we can actually align our elements inside our page using different properties: justify items, align items, justify content, align content, justify self, and align self.